It's just past 7:30 p.m. across India. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I'm Tanvi Taneja, and for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague in Washington, D.C., Caroline Malone. Good to have you with us, Caroline.
Well, good morning, Tanvi. It's 10 a.m. here in Washington, D.C. and 3 in the afternoon across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, we have more on U.S. primary elections that are underway in the state of Pennsylvania. But first, the headlines.
Joe Biden and Donald Trump set to face each other in Pennsylvania's primary today as day 2 of Donald Trump's hush money proceedings begin. Trump calls the trial a disgrace, says peace in West Asia won't come under Biden's presidency.
It's a disgrace to our country, and it's all Biden's fault, and everybody knows it. He's got no message, he's got no compassion, he doesn't know what he's doing, he can't put two sentences together, frankly. He is the worst president in the history of our country.
The U.S. Senate is set to vote on a $95 billion aid package and military assistance to Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan. Five people died trying to cross the English Channel from France, hours after Britain passes a bill to deport migrants to Rwanda. Top UN officials call on Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to reconsider the plan. And campaigning for the second phase of India's general elections peaks as leaders of various political parties crisscross different territories. The U.S. Senate is set to vote on Tuesday for a massive $95 billion aid package in military assistance to Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan. The much-awaited bill passed by the U.S. House of Representatives on April 20th allocates around $61 billion to Ukraine, $26 billion to Israel and $8 billion to the Asia-Pacific, including Taiwan. After it passes through the Senate, the bill will land on President Joe Biden's desk for his approval. And DD India's Nick Harper joins us live from Washington, D.C. for more on the story. Nick, the House passed the Ukraine funding bill by a good margin, and it's now the Senate's turn. Do we see a finish line in sight? And if yes, how soon can we expect the assistance to reach Ukraine?
Well, Tanvi, senators will be getting on with proceedings to weigh up whether or not they want to approve this massive $61 billion aid package to Ukraine in just a couple of hours' time. They will get about 30 hours once the legislation is with them to consider it before it goes to a final vote. Now, there is a chance that that could be sped up. We could potentially see a vote, for example, by the end of today. But the thinking is that it's likely to come tomorrow. The bottom line simply is that by the end of this week, we're expecting that legislation to hit President Biden's desk for him to sign it into law. But how quickly will it get to Ukraine? Some of that weaponry, we're told, is ready, some is not. But we're also hearing that there is another tranche of funding that is being assembled above and beyond this $60 billion. And this one would be in the region of somewhere in excess of $300 million, would include armoured vehicles as well as much needed artillery, air defences and weaponry for Kiev. That's something that's being put together in the background, even though this one is being voted on by the Senate. Of course, Kiev has waited months for this funding, the House stalling it for many months due to opposition from hard-right Republicans, including the former President Donald Trump, who quite simply said they did not want extra money going to Ukraine to help with this foreign fight, instead saying the money would be better spent on domestic issues here, like border security with the US border with Mexico. So now the Senate gets to weigh it up. The Democrats have a slim majority, and we are expecting it to pass comfortably through the Senate at some point in the next day or two.
Okay. Also, Nick, Kremlin has repeatedly said that the fresh aid for Ukraine by the US won't change the situation on the battlefront. Do you think the package, if passed, would meet Ukraine's urgent battlefield and air defense needs?
Well, the hope is yes. However, even though Kiev will be getting more firepower, one of the biggest problems for them at the moment in their fight against Russia is manpower. They are significantly down on the number of recruits that they have to take on the Russian forces. Now, they recently changed recruiting laws in Ukraine to allow them to be able to draft more people into the military, but it still will take many months for those new recruits to be fully trained. The chances are that this, however, the funding package, the weaponry that will be provided, will stop a major breakthrough in the east of the country, Russian forces potentially targeting that area. However, Republicans very much saying with all of this new aid going to Ukraine, they now want to see Ukraine using it and creating a win from this situation. But like you mentioned, Moscow quite simply saying that this will not change the calculation on the battlefield, that despite these billions of dollars, Russia, they say, still has the upper hand in the fight.
Nick Harper in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for those updates. Russia has announced plans to increase attacks on Ukrainian storage facilities containing weapons provided by the West as the United States gets ready to finally release a long-awaited batch of military aid. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu stated that Moscow had dispelled the myth of the superiority of Western weapons, referring to the U.S. supply of military aid package worth nearly $61 billion for Kiev.
In proportion to the threats posed by the United States and its allies, we will continue to improve the composition and structure of the armed forces and increase the production of the most popular weapons and military equipment. We will increase the intensity of attacks on logistic centers and storage bases for Western weapons. The Russian armed forces will continue to solve assigned tasks until the objectives of the special operation are fully achieved.
On the ground, Russian forces have claimed control over the Novomykhlivka region of Ukraine on Monday. This is Moscow's second territorial claim in 2 days. Ukraine has, however, contested Russia's claim, insisting that Kiev very much held the settlement and was engaged in the ongoing efforts to retain it. Russia had previously claimed to have captured Bohodanivka village, northeast of Chasiv Yar, on Sunday. On to the other conflict between Israel and Hamas. The United States has accused Hamas of changing its demands in the ceasefire and hostage release negotiations with Israel amid escalating tensions. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that Hamas is more interested in a full-scale regional war than a peace agreement. The talks are being mediated by Qatar and Egypt.
The Secretary made the comments he did on Friday when he spoke to this at the meeting of the G7 foreign ministers is what you have seen over the past few weeks is Hamas move the goalposts. There are demands that they have made. Israel has moved some way to meeting those demands, and Hamas has then changed their demands. And so it certainly does seem like Hamas is more interested in a full-scale regional war.
Qatar, meanwhile, stated on Tuesday that maintaining Hamas's office in Doha was warranted as long as mediation efforts persisted in the Gaza conflict.
Regarding the Hamas office here in Doha, this office was opened in coordination with the United States for the purpose of mediation between both sides, as long as their presence here in Doha, as we have always said, is useful and positive in this mediation effort. They will remain here in Doha. That said, of course, as we said, we are reassessing our role as mediators, but any decisions regarding this issue will not be taken unless we are finished with that reassessment and we are ready to convey the results of this reassessment.
On to the U.S. presidential race now. U.S. President Joe Biden and his Republican challenger Donald Trump face one of the last tests in Tuesday's primaries in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. My colleague Caroline Malone is in Washington, D.C. She gives us more on this and also updates us on the latest on day 2 of the Trump trial and, of course, other stories making headlines around the world. Caroline, an interesting face-off expected today between Trump and Biden?
That's right. One of the country's most important battleground states in Pennsylvania is going to the polls on Tuesday in a primary election. Both Joe Biden and Donald Trump are most likely to be the presidential candidates for their parties, but voters in Pennsylvania still have other options to choose from. Both Biden and Trump recently held events in Pennsylvania ahead of the primary election, emphasizing the state's pivotal role in the U.S. general ballot. Well, the primary results in the swing state of Pennsylvania are set to reveal insights about the issues surrounding the election, specifically abortion and the Israel-Hamas conflict. Well, DD India's Kate Fisher joins us live now from Washington, D.C. So, Kate, we already know this year's likely presidential nominees. What more can you tell us about the contest in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, that's right. There's not much jeopardy about who is going to win likely the race in Pennsylvania. And we already know that Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee and Joe Biden will be the Democratic nominee. But Pennsylvania is a key swing state. It's one of the most evenly divided states in the US, which means that it will be looked at closely, even though we probably know the result. And people will be looking at, experts, analysts will be looking at things like turnout. How many people, despite knowing the answer to the result, will actually still come out and vote? Also, will some of those issues you just talked about change the way they vote? Will, for example, the war in Gaza stop some Democrats from supporting Joe Biden? And for Donald Trump as well, there is the fact that Nikki Haley, who was his closest challenger in the Republican race, is still on the ballot there. So there will be a look at whether she still gets votes, despite the fact she's no longer in the running, as a kind of protest vote against Donald Trump.
And Kate, what particular challenges do the candidates of Biden and Trump face in Pennsylvania?
Well, that for Donald Trump is one of the biggest. The fact that Nikki Haley is still on the ballot in the Republican primary in the state of Wisconsin, another swing state recently. Nikki Haley won 13% of the vote, even though she wasn't campaigning there and she's no longer in the race. And that is a concern for Team Trump. They don't want to see lots of people writing, lots of Republican voters putting Nikki Haley's name down on the ballot, because it shows that Donald Trump's support is not as steadfast as they would hope. For Joe Biden, the war in Gaza is a big issue. There is already among Democrats who disagree with the way he's dealing with this. There are a lot of them asking people to write uncommitted on their ballot paper, which is essentially a protest vote against Joe Biden. And the more people that do that, the more worrying that is for the Biden campaign as we head towards November. Also in Pennsylvania, liquefied natural gas could be a big issue. Joe Biden says he wants to put curbs on fracking, and Donald Trump is saying, no, let's frack. So there are the people that want to support that local industry there may well come out, and that will be a problem for the Democrats who have said that they want to put more curbs on that.
Well, thank you, Kate. That was Kate Fisher reporting live from Washington. Well, it's day 2 of arguments being heard in the first ever criminal trial against former US President Donald Trump. And he has called the trial a disgrace and said that peace in the Middle East won't come under Biden's presidency. Well, prosecutors allege that Trump tried to hide hush money payments made to an adult film star to cover up claims of alleged encounters. Well, Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 counts of falsification of business records and denies having ever had an encounter with the adult film star.
What's going on is a disgrace to our country, and it's all Biden's fault, and everybody knows it. He's got no message. He's got no compassion. He doesn't know what he's doing. He can't put 2 sentences together, frankly. He is the worst president in the history of our country. And I can tell you, he's no friend of Israel, that's for sure. And he's no friend of the Arab world either. You take a look at what he said. He's no friend he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do. He wants to take like a middle ground, and oftentimes that doesn't work, but it's certainly not working here.
Well, German police have arrested an employee of a European Parliament member belonging to the Alternative for Germany, or AfD, party on suspicion of spying for China. The staffer worked as an assistant for Maximilian Krah, the AfD's top candidate in the European Parliament elections. Krah said that the employee would be dismissed immediately if the allegations are proven true. Well, the arrest happened on the same day as 3 German nationals were arrested on suspicion of working with China's Ministry of State Security.
We had a person arrested who is suspected of working for a Chinese intelligence service. According to our information, this person repeatedly passed on information from the European Parliament to the Chinese intelligence service. The accused has access to this because he worked for a German member of the parliament. We also accuse the suspect of spying on Chinese opposition members in Germany.
Well, DD India's Trent Murray has more and sent us this report from Berlin.
We are hearing, as you might imagine, much reaction to this news from both political and security circles. The Interior Minister here, Nancy Faeser, who is in charge of national security, said if these allegations are true, well, they represent an attack from within on Europe's democracy. Now, the AfD party, for its own measure, we are being told that they learned about these accusations first from media reports. That politician has now been suspended from the European Parliament, but the timing of all of this is just so crucial. It comes 1 week after German Chancellor Olaf Scholz visited Beijing. He spoke to Chinese President Xi Jinping, where he was told that the two countries will continue to work together in the spirit of mutual respect and to try and find common ground. Well, fast forward 1 week and the German people are now hearing media reports that the Chinese state has been employing people here in the country to spy on behalf of its intelligence agency and hand over crucial information. This arrest today comes just a few days after another set of arrests, similar allegations, 3 German nationals accused of handing over crucial information about military technology to China. Again, these are all just allegations, but we do know that this has certainly heightened the alert of security services here. The head of the German intelligence agency has said in the past few days these arrests could just represent, quote, the tip of the iceberg for spy rings operating within Germany. Trent Murray for DD India in the German capital, Berlin.
Well, Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is in Warsaw and has visited troops alongside Polish Premier Donald Tusk and NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg. The visit by the top officials is part of Poland's plan to rebuild its security position in Europe. Well, Sunak is also set to unveil a $617 million package for Ukraine during the visit.
We will increase defence spending to a new baseline of 2.5% of GDP by 2030. That starts today and rises steadily in each and every year. Over the next 6 years, we'll invest an additional £75 billion in our defence. And it will be fully funded with no increase in borrowing or debt.
Well, DD India's Megumi Lim sent us this report from Kyiv.
Of course, been great news for Ukraine, especially for Ukrainian troops who have been for months now trying to repel Russian forces, trying to hold the front lines, all the while facing critical shortages of weapons and ammunition. And as you said, President Zelensky thanked Prime Minister Rishi Sunak for the additional Storm Shadows, which have long-range capabilities and will be useful to target Russian logistic lines, and also for the armored vehicles and ammunition, which are all very badly needed on the battlefield. Now, this is also good news because over the weekend, the U.S. House of Representatives passed the long-delayed funding bill for Ukraine worth $60 billion. And so these two packages put together will really allow Ukrainian troops to let out a sigh of relief, knowing that replenishment is on its way. And U.S. officials have said that once the funding bill for Ukraine gets its final approval, which is expected to happen this week, the first batch of military aid is expected to arrive in Ukraine within days.
Well, hours after the British Prime Minister's latest efforts to get migrants back to Rwanda won approval in UK Parliament, at least 5 migrants, including a 7-year-old girl, have lost their lives while attempting to cross the English Channel from France to the UK. Well, nearly 112 migrants were actually crammed onto a small boat when chaos ensued. French emergency services rescued 47 migrants, but more than 50 others decided to try and continue their journey towards the UK. Well, that's it from me here in Washington. Back to you in the studio, Tanvi.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Caroline Malone joining us from Washington, D.C. You're watching DD India Global, still to come on the show. Cambridge Trinity College returns 18th century Aboriginal spares to the descendants of Australia's indigenous community. And India's electronic city of Bengaluru to witness Zero Shadow Day on Wednesday. Stay with us to know more about the phenomena.
India's southern state of Karnataka gets ready for polls in 2 phases. Congress-ruled state looks to checkmate BJP in the land of sandalwood. It's the ultimate battle of guarantees. What will resonate with the voters in battleground Karnataka? Watch the Great Indian Election at 8:30 p.m. IST and 1500 hours GMT. Only on DD India.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us on DD India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. As India is gearing up for the second phase of elections, we now get you up to speed with the largest electoral event underway in India. Political parties across India have ramped up their election campaigning ahead of the second phase of polling on April 26th. Prime Minister and senior BJP leader Narendra Modi on Tuesday held a public meeting in Tonksavai Madhopur constituency in the western state of Rajasthan. Addressing the rally, Prime Minister Modi said, "The BJP has shown what a stable and honest government can do in power over 10 years. Prime Minister Modi also addressed public meetings in Chhattisgarh's Janjgir and Mahasmund city. Home Minister and senior BJP leader Amit Shah addressed a public meeting in Raiganj of West Bengal. The BJP leader also held public rallies in Maharashtra's Akola and Karnataka today. Opposition Congress Party leader Sachin Pilot participated in the rally in support of AICC General Secretary K.C. Venugopal in the southern state of Kerala's Alappuzha city today. Bihar's Chief Minister and Janata Dal United Party Chief Nitish Kumar addressed a public meeting in the state's Katihar district. Samajwadi Party National General Secretary Shivpal Singh Yadav and Mainpuri candidate Dimple Yadav addressed a public meeting in Uttar Pradesh's Amroha. Electoral fervour also grips India's Thiruvananthapuram city in the southern state of Kerala. Well, it's a high-stakes triangular contest in this pivotal constituency of Trivandrum, where the battle for political supremacy reaches a crescendo. Our correspondent Siddharth Bhardwaj reports.
While the state of Kerala will go to polls on April 26, The temperature is certainly high here in the region. I'm here in Rwanda right now, where the competition is majorly between the CPI Congress and the BJP. The candidates are actually trying their level best to win the hearts of the voters.
In the upcoming Lok Sabha elections, the battleground of Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala is ablaze with fervour as candidates vie for the coveted seat amidst sweltering temperatures. With just hours left for campaigning, political parties are leaving no stone unturned in their efforts to sway voters. What was once a traditional showdown between the United Democratic Front and Left Democratic Front has now transformed into a triangular contest, with Bharatiya Janata Party emerging as a formidable contender. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, BJP candidate in Thiruvananthapuram, said the BJP is poised to leave a lasting impression in the forthcoming Lok Sabha elections.
No, these elections are going to be a major change in Thiruvananthapuram after 60-65 years of being exploited by and neglected by the LDF and the UDF government. The people of Thiruvananthapuram want change, they want prosperity and development. No, I'm very confident that after the last 10 years of Narendra Modi ji's government, people all over the country want to support BJP and want to give Narendra Modi ji a third term in government.
Meanwhile, Congress is brimming with confidence as it seeks to reclaim victory in Thiruvananthapuram. Shashi Tharoor, Congress candidate in Thiruvananthapuram, said that even though the temperature is soaring, the spirits are high.
Yeah, the heat is scorching. The people's enthusiasm is equally warm, and we are looking forward to a good victory in 2 days' time.
As the countdown to polling day begins, political parties are intensifying their efforts to win over the electorate, with the ultimate verdict resting in the hands of the voters.
With camera person Selden Kumar, this is Siddharth Bhardwaj reporting for DD India in Trivandrum.
On to Sri Lanka now. In a symbolic celebration of the Bak Full Moon Poya Day, India's High Commissioner Santosh Jha and Chief Incumbent of PDCP, Dr. M.W. Mahathera, join hands to inaugurate an enlightening exhibition showcasing India's rich Buddhist heritage at the Parama Dhamma Chaitya Pirivena in Ratmalana. And next we take a look at what else is happening around the world. 4 spears taken from Australia by a British explorer more than 250 years ago have been returned by Cambridge University to the descendants of the indigenous community which crafted them. It comes 7 years after an initial request was refused, partly over concerns about housing and conserving the spears. A Peruvian woman suffering from a degenerative illness has died by euthanasia after a lengthy court battle ended in a landmark ruling, allowing her to end her life with medical assistance. 47-year-old Ana Estrada had lived with a rare incurable disease which weakened her muscles for the past 3 decades. And India's electronic city of Bengaluru will witness Zero Shadow Day tomorrow, that's April 24th. The rare phenomena occurs twice a year when the sun is positioned directly overhead, resulting in objects casting no shadows at noon. It typically occurs in regions located near the equator. That's all in this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles. And for those on the go, you can catch all the latest news and updates on our DD India mobile app. You can scan the QR code on your screens right now. So we will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Tanvita Neja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.